My name is Vivian. I'm 32 years old, and for the last 7 years, I have been married to a man who treats our marriage like a failing corporation. Most women wake up to the smell of coffee or a kiss on the forehead. I wake up to the sound of a mechanical keyboard and the whirring of a laser printer. That is the sound of my husband, Arthur, calculating my existence. $3.42. That is the number staring at me right now. It is highlighted in yellow on a spreadsheet titled Household Deficit, August. Arthur slides the paper across the marble kitchen island. He does not look at my eyes. He looks at the paper. He always looks at the paper. You went over budget on the grocery run, Vivian, he says. His voice is calm, reasonable. It is the voice of a man explaining to a toddler why they cannot touch the stove. I noticed you bought the organic almond butter and the imported cheese. We agreed on the generic brand. I look at the man I sacrificed a six-figure career for. I look at his tailored Italian suit. I look at the Rolex on his wrist that costs more than my father's car. It was $3, Arthur, I say. My voice is quiet. It has to be. If I raise my voice, I am emotional. If I am emotional, I am unstable. And if I am unstable, I am a liability. It is $3.42, he corrects me. And if you multiply that by 52 weeks, plus compound interest if invested in an index fund, that is a significant loss of capital. I have deducted the difference from your monthly allowance. It's only fair, Viv. 50-50. 50-50. That is his favorite phrase. It is the weapon he uses to beat me into submission. Let me explain how 50-50 works in Arthur's world. Arthur is a senior portfolio manager at a hedge fund. He brings home roughly $450,000 a year, not including bonuses. I used to be a forensic accountant. I was good. I was dangerous. I could find a missing dime in a stack of $1 million. But when we got married, Arthur sold me a dream. He wanted a partner, he said. He wanted someone to manage the home front so he could conquer the world. He begged me to quit. He said my salary was negligible compared to what we could build together. So I did. I quit. I became the CEO of the household. But slowly, the contract changed. First, it was splitting the dinner bill on our anniversary. Feminism, he joked. Then, it was splitting the utilities. Then, the rent. Yes, I pay rent to live in a house that is only in his name. I have zero income. So to pay my share, I have been slowly draining the savings I built up in my 20s. Every month, I write him a check. Every month, my balance gets lower, and every month, his gets higher. I am not a wife. I am a tenant with benefits, a tenant who cooks, cleans, does the laundry, manages his social calendar, and warms his bed. And today, over $3.42 of cheese, something inside me finally snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It wasn't a scream. It was the sound of a switch flipping in a dark room. I looked at the spreadsheet. I looked at the deduction. Okay, I said. Arthur looked up, surprised. He was expecting a fight. He was expecting tears. He loves the tears. It makes him feel logical, superior. Okay? He asked. Yes, I said. You are right. Math is math. Fair is fair. I stood up. I walked to the fridge. I took out the jar of organic almond butter. What are you doing? He asked. I opened the jar. I took a spoon, and I ate a mouthful of the almond butter. He stared at me. That is technically my property now, he said, narrowing his eyes. Since I paid for the overage. I am just consuming my debt, I replied. I smiled. It was a cold smile, the kind of smile a shark gives before it drags you under. Don't worry, Arthur, I will make sure the accounts are balanced. When I walked out of the kitchen, I went upstairs to our bedroom. I went into the walk-in closet and looked at my clothes. They were 3 years old. I haven't bought a new dress since the inflation adjustment meeting of 2021. I sat down at my vanity. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a woman who was tired, a woman who was fading. But behind the tired eyes, I saw something else. I saw the forensic accountant, the woman who used to hunt fraudsters for a living, the woman who knew that the devil is always in the details. If Arthur wanted to run our marriage like a business, fine. I opened my laptop. I didn't open social media. I opened Excel. I created a new spreadsheet. I named it Project Malicious Compliance. If we are roommates, then the social contract of marriage is void. Roommates do not do each other's laundry for free. Roommates do not cook 5-course keto meals for free. Roommates do not provide sexual intimacy as a wifely duty. Every service has a market rate, and Arthur was about to find out that professional labor is expensive. I spent the entire day auditing my own life. I timed how long it took to scrub the master bathroom, 45 minutes. I researched the hourly rate of a high-end housekeeper in our zip code, $60 an hour. I calculated the cost of a personal chef. I calculated the cost of a personal assistant. I even calculated the convenience fee for rush orders on his dry cleaning. By the time the sun went down, I had a document. It wasn't just a list. It was an invoice. Invoice number 0001. Date, today. Bill, to Arthur, from Vivian Inc. My heart was pounding. This was dangerous. Arthur controls the money. If he kicks me out now, I have nothing. My savings are almost gone because of his rent. I am vulnerable. But I also know Arthur. He is a creature of habit. He is paralyzed without me. He doesn't know how to turn on the washing machine. He doesn't know his own mother's birthday. He doesn't know where the coffee beans are kept. He needs me. He just doesn't want to pay for me. I heard the front door open. He was home from the gym. "Vivian," he called out. "I'm starving. Is the sea base ready?" I sat in the dark living room. The only light came from my laptop screen. "Vivian?" He walked into the living room. He flipped the switch. The chandelier flooded the room with light. He saw me sitting there. He saw the lack of smell coming from the kitchen. No food, no table set. "What is going on?" he asked, checking his watch. "It's 7:30. Efficiency, Vivian. We talked about this." I didn't say a word. I stood up. I picked up the piece of paper I had just printed. It was still warm. I walked over to him. He looked confused. He looked annoyed. "Is this about the cheese?" He sighed. "Don't be petty." I handed him the paper. "This isn't about the cheese, Arthur," I said softly. "This is about the new business model." He frowned. He took the paper. He adjusted his glasses. I watched his eyes scan the page. I watched his brow furrow. I watched his face turn a shade of red I had never seen before. What the hell is this?" he sputtered. "Read item 1, I said. He read it out loud. "Consulting fee, meal planning, and execution. $0 provided because service was suspended due to non-payment." "Read item 2, I said. "Laundry service and your refusal to process." He looked up at me, incredulous. "Vivian, my blue shirts are in the hamper. I need them for the board meeting tomorrow." "The laundromat is 3 blocks away," I said. "They charge $2 a shirt, plus a rush fee. I suggest you hurry. They close in 20 minutes. "You are insane," he hissed. He stepped closer to me. He used his height to intimidate me. It usually worked. "We are married. You are my wife. You don't charge me to wash my damn clothes." "According to you," I replied, holding my ground, "we are 50-50 partners. I paid for my half of the electricity used to run the machine. But my labor, that is an asset, and you have been liquidating my assets for 7 years without a return on investment." I took a step back. "The kitchen is closed, Arthur. The laundry is closed. And the bedroom is definitely closed." I turned around and started walking toward the guest room. "Where do you think you're going?" he shouted. "You can't do this. I pay the mortgage." I stopped at the bottom of the stairs. I turned back one last time. "And I pay half the rent," I reminded him, "which makes me a tenant with rights. And right now, this tenant is off the clock." I went into the guest room and locked the door. My hands were shaking. I slid down against the door and hugged my knees. I was terrified. But then I heard it. The sound of Arthur in the kitchen, opening cabinets, slamming drawers. He was looking for a pan. He dropped something heavy. He cursed. For the first time in 7 years, Arthur was hungry, and he had no one to blame but his own spreadsheet. I closed my eyes and let out a breath I had been holding since my wedding day. Phase 1 was complete. I had disrupted his supply chain, but I knew this was just the beginning. Arthur wouldn't take this lying down. He would retaliate. He would try to cut off my access to the joint account. He would try to starve me out. He didn't know that while he was at the gym, I had made a phone call. I had called an old contact from my forensic accounting days because while looking for the receipt for the almond butter in Arthur's home office trash can, I found something else. A receipt for a necklace. Cartier, $3,000. I don't own a Cartier necklace. Arthur wasn't just cheap, he was a thief, and I was about to find out exactly who was wearing my money around her neck. The next 3 days in our house were silent. Not the peaceful silence of a library. The suffocating silence of a bomb squad waiting for the timer to hit 0. Arthur decided to play chicken. He thought he could starve me out. He thought that if he refused to pay my invoices, I would crack. I would get bored. I would go back to scrubbing his toilets because I craved his approval. He was wrong. I spent those 3 days in the guest room, turning it into a war room. I had a mini fridge stocked with protein shakes and cheap sandwiches. I had my laptop, and I had the receipt. Cartier, $3,400. Item number 7291. Arthur had bought it on a Tuesday. I checked his calendar. Tuesday was marked as client dinner, high priority. I looked at the timestamp on the receipt. What, 6:45 in the evening. I called the Cartier boutique downtown. I put on my best executive assistant voice, the voice that sounds stressed, efficient, and important. Hi, this is Sarah from Arthur Sterling's office. Mr. Sterling is panicking. He thinks he might have left his corporate card at the counter last Tuesday when he bought the love necklace. Can you check? The sales associate was helpful. Oh no, he didn't leave the card. He tapped with his phone. Great, I said. And just to update his insurance file, did he have it gift wrapped? He can't remember if he took the box. Yes, she said. He took it with him. He said he wanted to give it to the lucky lady right away. Right away, I repeated. Was she with him? Yes, she was lovely. Tall, blonde hair. She tried it on right here. My hand gripped the phone tight. I am 5'4". I have brunette hair. Thank you, I said. You have been very helpful. I hung up. So the client dinner was a date, and the client was a tall blonde. Now I had a description, but I needed a name. I went back to the spreadsheet, the one Arthur forced me to update, the one that tracked our joint expenses. Arthur is careful. He never uses the joint account for his affairs, but arrogant men make mistakes in the margins. I looked at his Uber history. He shares the account with me for safety. On that Tuesday, there was a ride at 9 p.m. from the restaurant near Cartier to an apartment complex on the east side, the Vouk at Lake Eola. Luxury apartments, expensive, full of young professionals and corporate housing. When I typed the address into Google Maps, then I cross-referenced it with Arthur's LinkedIn connections. I filtered for marketing, interns, and analysts. It took me 4 hours. But then I saw her, Luna, 23 years old, junior analyst at his firm. I clicked on her Instagram. It was public, and there it was, a photo posted 3 days ago, a selfie in a bathroom mirror. She was wearing a black dress, and around her neck, glinting under the fluorescent lights, was the Cartier love necklace. Caption, spoiled by the best, hashtag date night, hashtag secret admirer. I zoomed in on the photo. In the corner of the mirror, I could see a reflection. Just a shoulder clad in a navy blue Brioni suit. I bought that suit for Arthur 2 years ago. I felt a cold sensation in my chest. It wasn't heartbreak. Heartbreak is hot. Wow, this was validation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was right. Arthur wasn't just cheap. He was funding a second life. He was charging me for cheese so he could buy her gold. I took a screenshot. I saved it to an encrypted folder on a cloud drive he didn't know about. Then I heard a knock on the guest room door. Vivian, Arthur's voice. Open the door. I didn't move. Vivian, this has gone on long enough. My mother is coming for brunch on Sunday. I need the house cleaned. I need the menu planned. And I need you to stop this childish game. I walked to the door and opened it. Arthur was standing there, holding a takeout bag. He looked tired. His shirt was wrinkled. He hadn't ironed it properly. The hourly rate for a weekend cleaning service is double, I said, leaning against the doorframe. $120 an hour. Holiday rates apply for your mother. Arthur's face darkened. He dropped the takeout bag on the floor. You want to talk about money? He sneered. Fine, let's talk about money. He pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen a few times. My phone buzzed. A notification from the bank. Alert, your access to the joint checking account has been revoked. My stomach dropped. If you are a vendor, Arthur said, his voice low and dangerous, then you don't get access to company funds until the job is done. No more credit cards, no more grocery money. If you want to eat, you use your own savings. He stepped closer. And by the way, rent is due on the 1st. Don't be late, or I will start charging late fees. He smiled, a cruel, victorious smile. He thought he had checkmated me. He thought that by cutting off the money, he would force me back into submission. He turned and walked away, whistling. I closed the door. I looked at my bank app. 0 access to the joint funds. I looked at my personal savings. $12,000 left. That was it. That was all I had in the world. If I paid him rent and paid for my own food, I would be broke in 3 months. He was putting me on a clock. He was squeezing me until I suffocated. But Arthur forgot one thing. I used to be an auditor. I know how to find money where it isn't supposed to be. If he blocked me from the front door, I would go through the back window. I sat back down at my laptop. I didn't try to hack the bank. That would be illegal. Instead, I logged into the IRS tax portal. We filed jointly. And that means I have legal access to our past tax returns. I pulled up the last 3 years. I started looking at the deductions. Arthur had claimed a massive deduction last year for a home office renovation at an investment property, $75,000, but we don't own an investment property. I frowned. I looked at the address listed for the property. It was the same address as the apartment complex on the east side, the view at Lake Eola. Apartment 4B. My breath hitched. He didn't just rent an apartment for Luna, he bought it, through a shell company, and he wrote it off as a business expense on our joint taxes. This wasn't just infidelity, this was tax fraud. And because my signature was on that tax return, I was complicit. If the IRS found out, I could go to jail. He had framed me. He had used my clean credit and my signature to launder money for his mistress. I felt panic rising in my throat. This was no longer a game about laundry and cheese. This was a felony. I needed help. I couldn't do this alone. I needed a shark. I picked up my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in 7 years. Marcus, divorce attorney. We dated in college. He was ruthless then. I hoped he was still ruthless now. I pressed call. Vivian? His voice answered on the second ring. He sounded surprised. It's been a decade. I need a consultation, Marcus, I said. Off the books. Is Arthur hitting you? No, I said. He's doing something worse. He's framing me for tax evasion. I'm listening. I need to know my options. But Marcus, I have zero cash flow. He cut my cards. Marcus laughed. A dry, sharp sound. Vivian, if what you say is true, you don't need cash. You have leverage. You are the whistleblower. Does he know you know? No. Good. Keep it that way. Be the perfect wife. Pay his stupid rent. Let him think he's winning. We need one more thing before we strike. What? We need proof that the apartment is occupied by the mistress. We need a direct link between him, the apartment, and the girl. The tax return isn't enough. We need photos. I have a photo of her wearing a necklace he bought. Circumstantial, Marcus said. I need him walking into that apartment. I need him paying the bills. I need the smoking gun. I looked at the clock. It was 9 p.m. I can get that, I said. How? Arthur thinks I'm broke. He thinks I'm trapped in the guest room. He thinks I'm defeated. And tomorrow is Friday, I said. He always has late meetings on Fridays. Vivian, Marcus warned, don't do anything stupid. I won't, I said. I'm just going to do a site inspection. I hung up. I opened my closet. I pushed aside the floral dresses Arthur liked. In the back, buried in a box, was my old gear, a black hoodie, sneakers, and a high-definition DSLR camera with a telephoto lens. I haven't used this camera since I tracked a CFO embezzling funds in 2016. I checked the battery. It was dead. I plugged it in. Arthur was downstairs watching TV. I could hear the laugh track of a sitcom. He was relaxing. He thought the war was over. He thought he had crushed the rebellion. He didn't know that the rebellion had just authorized a covert ops mission. I looked at the invoice on my screen. I added a new line item. Item 4, Private Investigation Services. Rate $200 per hour. Status, pending. Tomorrow night, I catch him. And when I do, I'm not just going to divorce him. I'm going to audit him into oblivion. Friday night, 7 p.m. Most wives are opening a bottle of wine. I'm sitting in a rented Toyota Corolla 3 blocks away from The View Apartments. I couldn't take my own car. Arthur tracks the GPS. He thinks I'm at a yoga retreat. I even forged a receipt for the class to keep him happy. Item 5, surveillance equipment rental. Car. Cost, $89. It was raining, the kind of rain that makes the city look like a blurred photograph. Perfect for hiding. I adjusted the telephoto lens on my camera. My hands were steady, cold. At 7:15, a black Mercedes pulled up. Arthur. He didn't park in the guest spot. He parked in the reserved spot, spot 4B. He got out of the car. He wasn't wearing his late meeting face. He was smiling. He was holding a bag of groceries from Whole Foods. I zoomed in. In the grocery bag, I saw a bottle of expensive red wine and a box of chocolates. Arthur has never bought me chocolates. He says sugar is a depreciating asset for the body. He walked to the front door. He didn't buzz in. He used a key fob. Click. I took the first photo. Clear. Undeniable. Proof that he had unrestricted access to the property. A moment later, the door to the lobby opened. Luna ran out. She was wearing oversized sweatpants and a tank top. She looked young, painfully young. She jumped into his arms. He spun her around. They kissed. It wasn't a quick peck. It was the kind of kiss you see in movies. Passionate, Desperate. Click, click, click. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, not because I loved him, but because I realized the magnitude of the lie. This wasn't just sex. This was a second life. He was playing house with her. He was using my money, our money, to build a fantasy where he was the generous provider, the hero, while at home, he was the tyrant who charged me for cheese. They walked inside, hand in hand. I checked the time. 7:20. I could have gone home. I had the photo. I had the proof for the divorce lawyer. But the auditor in me wasn't satisfied. I needed to know the financials. I waited. 2 hours later, a delivery guy arrived. Pizza. Arthur hates pizza. He says it's peasant food. 10 minutes later, I saw them on the balcony of the fourth floor. I zoomed into the max. They were eating pizza, laughing. And then Arthur handed her something. An envelope. Luna opened it. She screamed with joy. She hugged him. I focused the lens. It was hard to see through the rain, but I caught the logo on the paper she was holding. Range Rover dealership. My blood froze. We have been driving the same cars for 6 years because Arthur said it wasn't fiscally responsible to upgrade, and he just leased a Range Rover for a 23-year-old intern. Using whose credit? I knew the answer. I started the car. I didn't cry. Tears are free, but revenge is expensive. And Arthur was going to pay the bill. I got home before him. I returned the rental car. I slipped back into the house. I put on my pajamas. I pretended to be asleep. Arthur came home at 1 a.m. He smelled like rain and vanilla perfume. He crawled into bed next to me. He kissed my shoulder. Rough night at the office, he whispered. The merger is killing me. I didn't move. I let him think I was asleep. Inside my head, I was adding a new line to the invoice. On item 6, emotional damages. Lying to my face. Cost. Everything you own. Saturday morning. The kitchen. Arthur was making coffee. He was whistling. He was in a good mood. Of course he was. He had his mistress, his new car, and his submissive wife. Morning, Viv, he said. I was thinking, we need to talk about the house. I poured myself a glass of water. What about the house? The market is peaking, he said, not looking at me. I think we should sell. I froze. Sell? I asked. But this is our home. It's an asset, he corrected. And it's underperforming. I found a buyer, an all-cash offer. We can close in 30 days. And where would we live? I found a smaller place, he said quickly. A condo downtown. It's more efficient, lower maintenance costs. I saw the trap immediately. He wasn't downsizing. He was liquidating. He wanted to sell the house, our biggest joint asset, before I filed for divorce. He wanted to turn the equity into cash, hide the cash in his offshore accounts, and leave me with nothing but half of a cheap condo. He was planning his exit strategy, and his timeline was 30 days. 30 days, I repeated. Yes, he said. So start packing. We need to declutter. I want this place showing ready by Monday. He took a sip of his coffee. Oh, and Viv, since we are moving, I'm going to need you to sign some papers. Just standard real estate forms, transfer of title stuff. He slid a stack of documents across the counter. I looked at them. Buried in the stack of standard forms was a quitclaim deed. If I signed it, I would be voluntarily giving up my rights to the house. He thought I was stupid. He thought I was just a housewife who didn't read the fine print. I looked at him, really looked at him. He was smiling, that charming, shark-like smile. I'll look them over, I said, picking up the papers. Great, he said. Have them signed by tonight. I need to courier them on Monday. He grabbed his gym bag and walked out the door. Love you, babe, he called out. The door slammed shut. I stood there in the silence. I had 30 days? No, I had 48 hours. If I didn't act now, he would sell the house out from under me. I looked at the quitclaim deed. Then I looked at the photos on my laptop. The photos of him and Luna, the photos of the Range Rover papers. I picked up my phone. I dialed Marcus. He's moving the assets, I said. He wants to sell the house. We need to file the injunction, Marcus said. Monday morning, as soon as the court opens. Monday is too late, I said. He has an all-cash buyer. He could sign a private contract this weekend. Then we need to blow up his life before Monday, Marcus said. We need to distract him. We need to make him so panicked that he forgets about the house. How? You said you had the invoice? Marcus asked. The one you made? Yes. Send it, Marcus said. Not to him. Send it to the person who matters. I hung up. I knew exactly what he meant. Arthur's biggest fear wasn't losing me. It wasn't even losing money. It was losing face. Arthur's boss, Mr. Sterling, no relation, just irony, was a man of family values. He was old school, he hated scandals, and more importantly, he hated employees who used company funds for personal pleasure. I opened my email. I composed a new message. To Luna. Subject: Welcome to the family. I attached the spreadsheet, the 50-50 spreadsheet, and then I typed a message. Hi, Luna. I saw the Range Rover. Nice color. Just a heads up. Arthur charges a 4% interest rate on leased vehicles for family members. See attached for his historical pricing model on affection. Also, the IRS is auditing our joint return on Monday regarding the investment property you are currently sleeping in. I suggest you find a good lawyer or a new boyfriend. Best, the wife. I hovered my finger over the send button, but I didn't send it to Luna. I forwarded it to Arthur. Subject: FWD. Heads up for your intern. I hit send. Then I went to the safe in the bedroom. I took out my passport. I took out my jewelry. I packed a bag. I went downstairs. I placed the quitclaim deed on the kitchen counter, but I didn't sign it. Instead, I wrote something across the signature line in thick red marker. Audit pending. I walked out of the front door. I got into my car. I drove to a hotel. I turned off my phone. 10 minutes later, my Apple Watch buzzed. Then it buzzed again. Then again. 50 notifications in 1 minute. Arthur. The game was no longer cat and mouse. The cat had just set the house on fire, and the mouse was trapped inside. Monday morning, 9 a.m. I was sitting in Marcus's office. It was on the 42nd floor overlooking the city. From up here, the people looked like ants. And Arthur was about to become microscopic. My phone had been off all weekend. When I finally turned it on, the notifications flooded in like a tsunami. 112 missed calls from Arthur, 40 texts. The first 10 were angry. Where are you? Pick up the phone. You can't do this. The next 20 were bargaining. Let's talk. I can explain. The apartment is an investment, Viv. You know I'm good with money. The last 10, pure panic. Luna showed me the email. Please don't call the IRS. Vivian, please. I didn't reply. Marcus walked in. He was holding a file thick enough to kill a man. Ready to press the button? He asked. I looked at the city below. I thought about the $3.42. I thought about the 7 years of silence. Execute, I said. At 9:15 a.m., 3 things happened simultaneously. First, a process server walked into Arthur's morning meeting at the hedge fund and handed him divorce papers. Not just any papers. A 50-page petition citing financial infidelity and fraud. Second, Marcus filed an emergency injunction to freeze all joint assets. The house, the accounts, the cars, everything was locked down. Arthur couldn't buy a stick of gum without a judge's permission. And third, and this was my personal favorite, the IRS received an anonymous whistleblower package containing digital copies of the Luna Solutions LLC tax returns, are cross-referenced with Arthur's personal travel logs and the lease agreement for the apartment. The dominoes didn't just fall, they shattered. By noon, Arthur was suspended from his job. You see, hedge funds don't like it when their portfolio managers are under federal investigation for tax fraud. It makes the investors nervous. By 2 p.m., Luna had broken up with him. I know this because she posted a quote on Instagram. Know your worth, never settle for a man who lies. Irony really is dead. But the real show happened on Wednesday, the mediation. Arthur requested an emergency meeting. He wanted to settle amicably. I walked into the conference room wearing a new suit. I bought it with the last of my savings. It was red. Bright blood red. Arthur was already there. He looked smaller. His suit was wrinkled. He hadn't shaved. The arrogance, the master of the universe aura, was gone. He looked like a man who'd been auditing his own life and found a massive deficit. When I sat down, he tried to reach for my hand. Viv, he croaked, we can fix this. You're overreacting. The IRS thing. It's just a misunderstanding. We can amend the returns. We can refile. We? I interrupted. There is no we, Arthur. I filed for innocent spouse relief on Friday. The IRS knows I was unaware of the fraud. You are on that sinking ship alone. His face went pale. But if they prosecute, I lose my license. I lose my career. I lose everything. That sounds like a liquidity problem, I said coldly. Marcus slid a document across the table. This is Vivian's settlement offer, Marcus said. Arthur picked it up. His hands were shaking. I want the house, I said. 100% equity. That's not fair, Arthur shouted, finding a spark of his old anger. I paid the mortgage. I paid the down payment. And I paid the rent, I countered. I paid for half of everything, remember? Plus, I am charging you for 7 years of domestic labor. Labor? He scoffed. You're back to that? You can't charge for being a wife. I can when you treated me like an employee, I said. You wanted everything itemized? Fine, I itemized it. I pointed to the document. Page 3, the grand total. Unpaid housekeeping services, 7 years. $200,000. Personal chef services, 7 years. $150,000. Emotional distress caused by financial abuse, $500,000. Repayment of rent collected illegally, $84,000. Punitive damages for tax fraud. Complicity, $1 million. Total settlement, $2.5 million. Arthur stared at the number. He couldn't breathe. I don't have this kind of liquid cash, he whispered. The accounts are frozen. I know, I said. That's why I'm taking the house, and your retirement fund, and the investment portfolio. You're leaving me with nothing, he said. Tears were actually forming in his eyes. Vivian, be reasonable. 50-50. Please, just give me 50-50. I stood up. I walked over to him. I leaned down so I was whispering right in his ear. Do you remember the cheese, Arthur? He looked up, confused. What? The $3.42, I said. You charged me for extra cheese. You said it was about principle. You said math is math. I pulled a single coin out of my pocket, a quarter. I placed it on the table in front of him. Here is your 50-50, I said. Keep the change. I walked out of the room. I didn't look back. But Marcus told me later that Arthur put his head on the table and sobbed. It has been 6 months. The divorce was finalized last week. Arthur settled. He had no choice. The IRS investigation is still ongoing, and he needed cash to pay his criminal defense lawyers. He gave me the house to make the civil suit go away. I sold the house immediately. I couldn't live there. It smelled like spreadsheets and betrayal. I took the money and started my own firm, Sterling Audit and Protection. We specialize in forensic accounting for spouses going through high-conflict divorces. We help women find the hidden accounts, the shell companies, and the secret crypto wallets that their husbands try to hide. My waiting list is 6 months long. As for Arthur, he lost his license. He works as a consultant now for a mid-tier firm in the suburbs. He drives a used Honda. I heard he's living with his mother. Apparently, she charges him rent. Sometimes, late at night, I look at that old spreadsheet, the one where he itemized my life. I don't feel anger anymore. I feel gratitude. He taught me a valuable lesson. He taught me that everything has a cost. Love has a cost. Dignity has a cost. Silence has a cost. For 7 years, I paid with my self-respect. But in the end, I got a full refund, with interest.